Well, thank you very much for the introduction. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to address the 6th IISS Raffles lecture in a venue long seen as a symbol of exchange between Singapore and the world. The spirit of exchange is one we know quite well. Our engagement with this part of the world is by no means a recent phenomenon. As early as 1865, we established as Turkey our first diplomatic mission right here in Singapore. In 1889, the Ottoman frigate Ertuğrul dropped anchor in Singapore on its historic voyage across Asia. Our sailors remained here for 2 months and were welcomed by thousands. The friendship they encountered endured in the hearts of our people. More than a century has passed, yet the cordiality between our peoples remains unchanged. And throughout our engagements during this visit, we have once again experienced the same exceptional hospitality and goodwill. Today, it is a distinct privilege to address this distinguished audience in Singapore, a country whose international standing has long commanded respect well beyond its region. And IISS Asia is certainly one of the most fitting hosts we could have for today's discussion on foreign policy in an age of uncertainty. Let me also congratulate the Institute on yet another successful Shangri-La dialogue concluded here just days ago, and Sir John is, of course, the man behind the scenes. And thank you for all the work. I hope that by the conclusion of my remarks, I will have brought at least a degree of clarity to this uncertainty. If not, the KN session may yet to do the work for us in the remaining of time. With that in mind, today I will present Turkey's foreign policy vision through 3 core perspectives: the ongoing transformation of the international system, the growing weight of Asia within it, and Turkey's perspective on both. Distinguished guests, it is now commonplace to talk about our age as one of cascading regional and global crises. The word uncertainty captures part of the picture, but not its full gravity. The past 5 years alone revealed the true magnitude of this picture. A pandemic that brought the entire global economy to its knees, the return of conventional warfare to the heart of Europe, emerging technologies and rising protectionism reshaping the global economy, conflicts spreading across distant theaters yet feeding into the same current instability. And throughout, the rules-based international system tested as never been before in living memory. This is one of those rare historical moments where nearly every fault line of the international system moving at once. That is what makes the present feel so overwhelming. Not the novelty of each shock in isolation, but the simultaneity with which they now strike. We're witnessing what feels like decades of geopolitical turbulence compressed into a few years. Why are we feeling the weight of every shock at once? The question. And more importantly, why do the traditional mechanisms of global governance seem so ill-equipped to absorb them? To come up with clear answers, we must first look at the long-simmering dynamics of our international system. What we are witnessing today did not materialize overnight. It is the result of what has been unfolding for many years. The weakening of international institutions and the erosion of the very norms that sustain global governance. There is, however, another layer to this transformation. The very distribution of global weight is also undergoing a fundamental shift. Power is spreading outward in a manner that is neither orderly nor final. Let's picture this shift in cosmic terms. The international order no longer resembles a fixed constellation. It is an expanding universe where centers of gravity multiply and older hierarchies gradually lose their gravitational pull. In such a kinetic system, power behaves much like matter in a cosmos in motion. It diffuses across domains we have not yet fully learned to map. And increasingly, it reappears through artificial intelligence, cyberspace, and autonomous systems that will define this century. This transformation already has profound consequences for modern diplomacy and statecraft. The traditional boundaries between diplomacy and war, economy and security, and domestic and foreign policy have blurred significantly. This reflects the emerging reality driven by rise of hybrid conflicts, hyperconnectivity, and the weaponization of mutual interdependence. So, how are prominent global actors responding to this relentless motion and all these challenges? The answer to this question reveals one of the most troubling symptoms of our age: strategic resignation. Global institutions are increasingly paralyzed, and many actors continue to approach a changing world with obsolete assumptions. They remain unwilling or unable to leave comfort zones in which they long operated on autopilot. Perhaps they are waiting for stability to reappear in a form they recognize. This is not prudence. It is an abdication of agency at the very moment when it is most needed. That is the difficult decision to before almost every nation today. And only a handful of wise and responsible nations have refused resignation. Turkey is one of them. In this, Turkey and Singapore share a common instinct. The founding father of modern Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, famously said that the world doesn't owe us a living. This foundational philosophy resonates with Turkey's strategic outlook. The defining challenge, therefore, is this: how does one act with a definite purpose when the system itself is in motion? How does one build stability in an age of protracted uncertainty? Our answer rests on two pillars. The first is disciplined use of diplomacy with strategic agency. For Turkey, diplomacy is an active force, the tool to wisely shape our collective future. The second pillar is regional ownership. As global institutions to deliver regional frameworks are increasingly becoming the primary platforms of cooperation. Regional dynamics now drive global outcomes more directly than ever before. The regionalization of agency is already reshaping international politics. We champion the principle of regional ownership in our immediate geography. To address long-standing structural challenges, we are working alongside our partners to forge a peaceful and prosperous regional architecture. And I know that this principle resonates in Asia as profoundly as it does in our own region. Distinguished guests, it is in Asia that this wider transformation is now being felt with particular impact. Few continents illustrate the redistribution of global weight more clearly than this one. The scale of Asia needs no explanation to an audience in Singapore. Yet its significance for the wider international community deserves restating. The overwhelming bulk of the world's economic strength, demographic weight, technological dynamism, and maritime connectivity is now concentrated here. Within this broader Asian renaissance, Southeast Asia has cultivated a distinct approach to regional order. ASEAN, with its tradition of consensus building and dialogue, has demonstrated how regional ownership can become an organizing principle for an entire region. We regard ASEAN as an indispensable partner with whom we can work more closely to advance global stability. As a testament to strategic alignment, Turkey and ASEAN established a sectoral dialogue partnership in 2017. We will hopefully upgrade our cooperation to dialogue partnership, inshallah, very soon. Our partnership with ASEAN embodies our broader vision for Asia. As a nation with deep roots in Asia, we are bound to this continent by enduring historical links, strategic ties, and a sense of shared purpose. That is the logic behind our Asia New initiative launched in 2019. Its purpose was to give greater structure and strategic depth to a relationship that already had firm historical foundations. Today, our engagement with Asia continues to rest on three pillars. First, our engagement is multidimensional. Political dialogue, economic cooperation, technology, connectivity, education, and cultural exchange all advance together and reinforce one another. Second, it is grounded in mutual respect and benefit. We seek productive partnerships shaped by a clear appreciation of each other's priorities. Third, it is institutional. We are consolidating our ties through permanent mechanisms, ranging from high-level strategic cooperation councils to joint economic and trade committees. This deepening engagement is matched by the unique assets that we bring to the region. We bring to each of countries whose strategic horizons extend across Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and beyond. We bring along the institutional reach of a NATO member, the experience of a nation deeply integrated with European institutions, the depth of enduring ties across the global South, and a defense industry that has risen to meet the security demands of our age. But above all, Turkey embodies a virtue that is in growing demand in international affairs. That is reliability. We offer the assurance of stabilizing power in an increasingly unpredictable world. From the Horn of Africa to the Black Sea, from the Gulf to the South Caucasus, we are working toward durable solutions to the conflicts across our wider region. And the stability we help build in these regions flows directly into the security and prosperity of Asia. Because we fully recognize that security is indivisible. That is the spirit in which Turkey engages with this continent. And this is what we wish to deepen further. Many of the themes I have discussed this evening find a natural expression in one particular relationship: the strategic partnership between Turkey and Singapore. We are situated at different ends of Asia, and our histories have been shaped by different circumstances. Yet, despite these differences, our strategic realities share clear parallels. Both of our countries sit at two of the world's most vital strategic crossroads. Singapore stands at the meeting of point of Asia's most important sea lanes. Turkey stands at the intersection of Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and the Mediterranean. Both of our countries believe that effective multilateralism and comprehensive international cooperation serve us better than fragmentation. This strategic alignment has already turned into a formidable foundation. In 2014, we elevated our partnership to a strategic level. In 2017, we concluded one of Turkey's most comprehensive free trade agreements. And this year marks 40 years since Turkish Airlines began direct service to Singapore, representing 4 decades of deepening ties between our peoples. Looking ahead, we see considerable scope to deepen this partnership further. In the digital economy and frontier technologies, in the green transition and renewable energy, in defense industry cooperation, in financial services and connectivity, and in the shared effort to uphold an open and rules-based international order. Moving forward, Turkey and Singapore have every reason to work together in shaping what comes next. Distinguished guests, certain moments in history by the sheer weight of the transformations they carry, leave deep marks on our collective memory. Our recent past has been full of such historical turning points, and times such as these call for clarity of judgment and the resolve to make difficult choices. Turkey has made that choice to be among the nations that give this turbulent age its direction through the steady hand of diplomacy. And in Singapore, we are proud to have a partner who shares that resolve. It is precisely this conviction that draws Turkey and Singapore ever closer. We share the same belief in the enduring value of diplomacy, and together we will carry this vision forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Foreign Minister, for that excellent introduction to the vision that Turkey has in its foreign policy in this uncertain time. I particularly liked your analogy of the changing structures and dynamics within the international order as one that you depicted in almost a cosmic sense. That was wonderful. And I also particularly liked your connection between the regional and the global, because that was exactly a plenary panel at the Shangri-La Dialogue this year. So that's wonderful. We'll now turn to a period of question and answers. You will all know the rules, but I will read them out once more. If you do have a question, please raise your hand very high so I can see you and call on you. A microphone will find its way to you. And if you could then please stand up, give us your name and affiliation, that would be fantastic. So whilst we wait for questions to come in, Foreign Minister, I was wondering if I could ask you, you did mention NATO, of course, and just over 4 weeks time from now, we'll have the NATO summit in Ankara. I wondered if I could ask you for your expectations of how that summit will go, maybe some of the results that Turkey is hoping for out of that, and what the current dynamics are across the transatlantic.
Well, certainly, thank you. We've been preparing ourselves for the next NATO summit. Given the international context, I think this summit will be very significant for many reasons, especially for European security architecture and how to treat the rising threats around us. You know, for the last couple of years, because the American friends made the point that the European countries should own and shoulder more responsibility of their own for the regional security. So there has to be a rise on defense budget. I think that has been agreed to 5%, and there is no disagreement within NATO in this. And I think we will have a review of this decision that we reached in the previous summits. This is one of the special agenda that we are going to work on this together. I think in this summit we will also have broader discussions on defense industry capabilities, because up until now NATO headquarters have contemplated and worked on mostly planning the troops and the capabilities. But the defense industry as a specific subject has never been the core of the discussion. But now, learning some lessons from the wars just taking place, I think defense industry has become a very important subject for many countries. So the resilience, the productivity, the production rate, and everything else is being involved. So we are bringing together a very big defense industry forum in this summit as a side event. And there is also there will be also discussion on some very important issues which I don't want to now speculate here, but there are some important issues waiting for us to be discussed.
Well, we look forward to hearing more of that. We have a question in the third row. Yes. Yeah, if you could stand up. Yeah. Oh, there's a microphone right behind you.
Minister, my name is Huzair. I work for a research institute based here in Singapore called RSIS. I just have one question. Could you shed light on the Turkish alternatives to the Straits of Hormuz, like, for example, the Four Seas project with Syria? How is it viable? Is it happening? What is happening with that project?
No, connectivity is very much important for our region, especially for the transportation of goods and energy and now data. I remember as early as 2008-9, there was a talk of a pipeline coming from the Persian Gulf, bringing Qatari gas through Saudi Arabia and to Jordan, then Syria, Turkey, then the Mediterranean and the European market to the Turkish pipeline networks. That was discussed among nations, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar, and a few other countries. But for some reason, it didn't go ahead. I don't want to say the reason here, but as you can imagine, in 2011, the civil war broke in Syria, and Syria was not an option for anymore. That didn't go anywhere. The second project was actually discussed as early as 2000, just 4 or 5 years ago, when Prime Minister Sudani came to power in Iraq, and the first thing that he told me, Hakan, I have this idea. What do you say? I said, look, Mr. Prime Minister, I love this idea. President Erdogan will love this because this is exactly what we need, not only for our region. This is for the first time after 2 decades of long wars and occupation, everything else, counter-terrorism operations. Iraq is proposing a positive agenda to our region. And again, it involves, bringing the energy from the Gulf to European markets and the world markets through Iraq, through Turkey. But it didn't go anywhere. Now, I am having discussions with some countries involved, and they are saying, we wish we did it. So, taking some lessons from this, there are other options, going through Syria as well. By the way, not only energy transportation, there is also a big problem on, importing and bringing in the foods and some other goods to Gulf countries, because the strait is closed and ships cannot pass through. And there is a rise on prices because of this transportation issue. Now we have start discussion with Saudi Arabia to revitalize the train road from Turkey, because we have good connection with Europe, from Turkey to Syria, from Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the Gulf. Now we started our Minister of Transportations have been tasked from 3 countries. Now they are working on that. So we have started working on every available prospective project that will enable this connectivity. We've taken huge lessons.
Thank you. Veer Pratap in the 4th row. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Veer Pratap, Vikram Singh with IISS. Minister, last year, Turkey blocked survey work for the East Med corridor, a submarine cable that would have provided an alternative to the choke point in the Suez Canal and the Gulf of Aden. This week, as you may know, during SLD, 17 nations signed on to the guide framework designed to protect submarine cable infrastructure. I'm wondering whether Turkey's maritime posture can align with cooperation mechanisms like guide. Thank you.
Well, I don't know if we are talking about, I don't think that we blocked anything.
It was a survey ship.
No, the survey ship is just a formality. We just needed a piece of paper from the host nation saying, look, we are sending this ship belongs to our nation, so we are sending the ship, please be aware. it didn't arrive. That's the problem.
All right, we've had a very eager waiter all the way in the back with his hand up. Yes, sir.
Jem Azak from Cross Invest Asia. Mr. Fidan, I watched your Bloomberg interview, your earlier Bloomberg interview, and you were pessimistic about a peace agreement between Iran and the US. Given that Turkey played a pivotal role in stabilizing Syria, do you think Turkey can do more to be a stabilizing factor also for this conflict? Or do you think the international community is not ready for that?
Well, that's an important question. I think, we are trying to do our best, really, to contribute to the ongoing talks, because there are layers of talks at the moment and different facilitators, and mainly our Pakistani friends. They are doing their best, and we are trying to help them a lot together with our Qatari friends. So obviously, we need to do more. But I don't know which part you watch on Bloomberg. What I was trying to tell, I am confident that the Americans and the Iranians, they are very much sincere about ceasefire. For different reasons, both sides are under pressure to open the Strait of Hormuz. They have different reasons, but the same desire, same objective. So that compels them to really reach a deal, to open the Strait of Hormuz, then start talking on nuclear files. But what concerns me regarding this issue is the behavior of Israel, because Israel doesn't necessarily see interest in seeing a durable ceasefire or any deal between the United States and Iran, and everybody knows this. It's no secret. So, and the Iranians yesterday, they made it very clear. We had phone conversation. They called us and they said, "Look, the Israeli troop movements and ongoing occupations and military operations in Lebanon has come to a point where we cannot actually tolerate this any longer, because it violates clearly the understanding that we reached with the Americans, which is we have to have a ceasefire on all fronts while we are having the talks. But now what Israel is doing in Lebanon is clear violation of our understanding. So we can expect such things from Netanyahu governments while the talks are ongoing, and this is not the first, and it will not be the last. This is the only concern. But other than that, I am confident about the intentions of both parties, because I know them, I talk to them.
Great. I'm going to turn to a question online from Antoine Levesque, who is a senior fellow in our South and Central Asia program based in London. Minister, he asks, what is the place of India in Turkey's statecraft? He notes, of course, that there is a perception in India that Turkey's open diplomatic and defense support for Pakistan during the 2025 India-Pakistan conflict lowered the ceiling considerably for any Turkey-India relations. How willing and able is Turkey to play a part in lifting that ceiling in the bilateral relationship with India?
Well, that's another important question for us, because we really would like to have excellent relations with India, because we don't have any border with India. We don't have any outstanding bilateral issue with India. We don't have a bad history with India. On the contrary, we have every good reason to have good relationship. But Turkey is not only the one country that having good relations with Pakistan and historical solidarity with Pakistan on some given issues. I think Turkey, we are having a different, for instance, our differences with Russia on certain issues, with the United States on certain issues, with some European countries on certain issues, but we are able to divorce one negative issue from the other, so we can put some problems in parentheses, in brackets, and we can go on the positive agenda. I think this is what needs to be done between Turkey and India, because we have a lot to cooperate, to benefit, and we are mature enough to go in this direction. So Turkey is not the only country who actually have good relations and brotherly relations with Pakistan. There are other countries. If India is going to take actions or be resentful about any countries who is having good relations and enjoying giving support to Pakistan. So I don't know. But as I said, we have no problem on bilateral level with India, and we urge India not to read the issue from a different perspective.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I'll go to the gentleman in the third row in the middle. Well, yes, sorry. Yeah, there we go.
Hi, Steve Oken with APAC Advisors. You mentioned that countries are operating under obsolete assumptions in this new geopolitical era, and I would argue businesses and investors are doing so as well. Could you be more specific as to what those obsolete assumptions are and what they need to change to become more practical, as you say Turkey and Singapore both are doing? Thank you.
Well, thank you. I mean, when we say assumptions in general terms, I think we still, certain countries, they like to see the world as used to be because dominated by some hegemonic powers and governed by some international rules and institutions. I think we know that this strategic environment is unfortunately gone or about to be gone. So we need to come up with our own diagnosis and solutions to these problems. That requires degree of ownership of the problem because United States have made it very clear that the current international system and the foreign policy that United States have been following for decades is not working for the interests of the United States anymore. So they are reshaping their strategic perspective vis-a-vis some issue. And of course, as a result, we are seeing the gap is emerging, and especially on the European security architecture, we have a lot of problems on business environment, investment environment, the tariffs, the technology, the trade, the new interaction with China, United States. This is also important things. So I think almost on all matters related to trade, investment, energy, security, defense, intelligence, we need to review our existing strategies and we need to come up with new solutions. This is what I would like to say.
There was a question right behind Steve. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hi, first of all, welcome to Singapore. It's been a pleasure to have you here. I am an automation specialist. I am from Canada. My name is Serhat Demirgil. I have an engineering background, and me and many other talented Turkish people are here that are working on bomb detection, AI, and I work on camouflage technologies for UAVs. And we don't want to work for private sectors such as Aselsan or Baykar. So, for example, US has a company called DARPA. It's a government association. I think it's time for Turkey to have a similar structure, and maybe under the Department of Defense, we could establish such a structure so we could attract more Turkish minds back to their country. There is such organizations, for example, Next Move to Turkey, but they are from private sector, and that's why I was not interested. I would voluntarily give my project to Turkish defense sector. It's just I prefer if it's directly to the military than to these contractors that could sell it to another country and that could be used on different atrocities. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your patriotism. Certainly, this is something that you see very rare. But you're right. But I will take up this offer and I will come up with a specific answer to you because I have certain things in mind. But we'll keep in touch.
Oh, fantastic. All right, Darshana Barua.
Thank you, Minister. The region has, over the last several years, been concerned about dual use of commercial engagements for strategic and military purposes. And you've mentioned the Turkish defense industry, and Turkey has indeed become an important defense partner for many in the region, not just for big powers, but also for small states such as the Maldives, who have replaced traditional partners. My question is if you could please share with us the interlinkages between the Turkish commercial engagements and its foreign policy ambitions for the region. Thank you.
You know, we are a member of G20. That shows the level of economic dynamism of Turkey. But we are not rich on oil and gas. We rely on our export, and we rely on our services and export of goods and industry. And among the industry, we have defense industry as well. So therefore, we need more investment, more trade. As a result, that's why we have more than 260 diplomatic missions all around the world. That makes us, according to some statistics, third largest diplomatic network. So the reason that we are having all these embassies in Asia Pacific, in Latin America, in Africa, all the countries is primarily, it's about trade, investment, and development. So that's why in our system, diplomacy and trade and investment, they go hand in hand together under good coordination. So when we have good relations with ASEAN countries, we really would like to increase the level of trade and investment and cooperation on technology, especially, and education, and on culture and defense industry too.
Thank you. There's a question here on this side in the third row.
Hi, good evening, Minister. I'm Tong Yi. I'm a master's student in global cultures with King's College London, but I'm from Singapore. You mentioned that Turkey and Singapore share the perspective of regional ownership. So I was wondering, with regards to the 2026 Iran-US conflict, both Turkey and Singapore and also ASEAN are concerned with the issue of energy security. So how does Turkey foresee a strategic cooperation with Singapore and ASEAN to work with this issue? And will this affect Turkey's alliance with the US and also NATO in any way? Thank you.
Well, certainly, as I tried to explain during my presentation, there are parallelism between the Singapore and the Turkish foreign policy and strategic perspectives. First of all, Singapore is trying to balance its good relations between the United States, China, and Russia, and some other regional countries. Not of these, countries necessarily having a converging interests. There might be diverging interests or some competition or some hostilities between those countries. But Singapore has been successfully balancing all these relations. And that balancing is translated into a very positive economic and political capital here in the region, to the interest of region. Singapore has been a trademark for finance, trade, and technology and education, and that sets an excellent example for the rest of the region. It gives hope for the rest of the region, and it plays a very important role in tying ASEAN to the rest of the world, especially to Europe, to United States, and other places. And it attracts a lot of foreign capital as well as it lends capital to other countries. I think we need to do more on this. And similarly, Turkey plays similar roles in its region, with a little bit larger capacity maybe, but we try to balance certain interests with certain great powers, try to have good relations, and similarly we find a big interest in bringing stability to the regional issues. we are not benefiting from any wars. We are not benefiting from any conflicts, because wherever there is a war, either in Gaza or Syria or Lebanon or Africa or Ukraine, our first approach is always the same. Let's stop this war and start talking, because we've seen firsthand in our region that wars are not bringing anything other than destruction. Even the worst peace is far more better than any war. This is the saying of our President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And we have big population. We need sustainable economic development and prosperity, not only for us, for our own region too. And to prevent the mass migration and the wars and other risks in our region.
Thank you. Daniel Salisbury.
Thank you. Daniel Salisbury, I'm the Senior Fellow for Nuclear Arms Control, Non-Proliferation and Disarmament at the IISS in Singapore. Thank you, Minister, for your address. You alluded to Turkey's defense industry, and last month a Turkish defense firm unveiled a prototype intercontinental ballistic missile at a defense exhibition in Istanbul. My question is, what is Turkey's interest in such long-range technology? Is it for deterrence? Is it a dual-use technology for space purposes? Or is it for something else? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. As our Minister of Defense later on made a statement about that missile project that you mentioned, it's just a concept work now. It has been taking place, not a finalized work. But I can say that we really would like to have capacity to send satellites to the space. This is something that we are working on it. Because the communications, the meteorology, and other things, we need a lot of capabilities that really comes with the satellites and space. And we are hiring satellite capabilities to certain countries, but we need our own satellites. I think primarily we are concerned about that. And plus also, as you said, deterrence is a part of the defense strategy. And when you look at the neighborhood that we are, you can easily assume that we really need deterrence.
Thank you. I might go to Lucy. If you could stand up, Lucy, and then the microphone will come to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your address. My name is Lucy Berosudo. I'm a researcher at the IISS. So Verena once mentioned in her introduction a broken rules-based order, I think quoting Sir John here. And during our Shangri-La dialogue last weekend, we could hear that some countries said that rules should be backed more by hard power, and other countries said that rules should be backed by self-restraint. Which side is Turkey on? Thank you.
Well, when the old system was established, right after Second World War, as you know, we had only 55 nation states, member of the United Nations. Today we have more than 190, close to 200 nation states at the moment. So that says something, I think. And I think majority of nation states that was founded right after the post-colonial season and Second World War, I think now they have become mature enough to engage certain degree of quality cooperation and to assume responsibilities. So this is one positive side. When some strategic old powers and hegemonic powers, when they resign from their own responsibilities, I think there is a possibility for other major nation states that they can cooperate and they can own some problems, and that can be demonstrated. That's why we would like to start this with regional ownership. Like Middle East should own their own problems, whether it's war, peace, development, and economy. What happened in Europe right after the Second World War, all enemies become new partners, new partners become new friends, and then new friends become new family again. And in doing so, they have demonstrated a great degree of good governance, economic development, peace, and prosperity. So same thing can be done elsewhere, as long as you have responsible, mature nation states. I think for instance, many of the nation states here in Asia Pacific, they have established right after the Second World War, and in Middle East, many of them, they used to be the part of the Ottoman Empire, but like any other 52 nation states, but now after a long time, we believe that every nation state has become mature enough to engage quality of cooperation and assume responsibilities. It is doable. We need to start from somewhere.
I think that was an excellent point to end on, Foreign Minister. I know that we've reached time and that you have a very busy schedule ahead of you. You're leaving Singapore this evening and on to further travel in the region. I believe you said Indonesia, South Korea, and Bangladesh, if I'm not mistaken. So we shall let you get ready for that. This was a fantastic overview. We touched on a great deal of issues, and we will all now be watching out for the Turkish version of DARPA to be announced sometime soon. Hopefully, maybe potentially at SLD next year. But in the meantime, if you could all join me in thanking the Foreign Minister for his excellent remarks.